Welcome everybody to another episode, I guess, of our Summer of BI at Infragistics with Reveal. So today we are going to talk about advanced analytics in Reveal, which is a pretty cool topic. We have several areas in Reveal that we've improved over the last 12 months to enhance what you can deliver to your customers. So today you'll get a quick walkthrough of those. We'll spend most of the time on demos, and hopefully you get a feel for how you can use this in your applications. So again, my name is Jason Barris. I'm the Senior VP of Developer Tools at Infragistics, and with me today is Casey McGuigan. She is a product manager for Reveal and has been with the product since day one, so she knows all the ins and outs. So if you have any questions about Reveal, past, present, future, use the chat window and ask questions throughout the session. When I'm presenting, she'll be answering questions, and when she presents, I'll go ahead and answer any questions. And then when we're done, we'll stay on for about 10 minutes after or whatever and finish up if there's extra questions going through. So please let us know what you think and what you'd like to see, and any feedback on the product is great. So today's agenda: what is advanced analytics? We'll look at machine learning, statistical functions, advanced scripting, which was the webinar 2 weeks ago. I'm just going to touch on it again because some of you may not have been there, but I'll just give you an idea of what that is and show some demos. So then we'll do some demos and wrap up. Quick housekeeping: slides and recording will be available after the event. So within a few hours, we post this up on YouTube as well as the slides end up on SlideShare. So you can just search for Reveal Infragistics and they'll pop up. And on YouTube, we have the Reveal channel. So everything will be available within the next few hours. And of course, John is on as well. He makes sure all this stuff happens with the webinar. So thank you, John, for continuing to do that. So today, the highlighted yellow is advanced analytics. And it's more than machine learning. We're going to cover some other topics as well. We've already done the previous three webinars: dashboards, do's and don'ts, building a data-driven culture, and advanced analytics using R and Python. Those are all available for replay on YouTube, slides on SlideShare. Please check them out if you didn't attend. They were all pretty cool. Today is ML, statistics, advanced scripting. In a couple weeks, we are going to do embedded analytics, 5 steps to app modernization. Might be only 3 steps because we've simplified embedding Reveal into your applications to the degree where it's down to 1 line of code to load a dashboard and enable the API. So we'll have a special guest in this webinar as well to do some of the demos, so we're pretty excited about that. And then in a couple weeks, we're still looking at data prep and data blending, and then we will probably let everyone take a little summer break, and then around middle of September, we'll kick these webinars up again with topics that you've been asking for. So Casey's been tracking all of the Q&As and feedbacks, and we're just going to continue to roll these out with what you guys want to learn to make your implementations of Reveal easier. So let's take a look at advanced analytics. So the whole idea with this set of features is to let you do more with Reveal. There's a lot of options out there to do charts and dashboards, but they're not all simple, and they don't always all go beyond like the simple just creating a chart. There's more things you need to do to ensure that your users can do analysis, make smarter decisions, and help you run your business better. And that's what we're trying to do with all these features inside of Reveal. So from an advanced analytics capability, we have cloud-based machine learning, which you're going to see today. We have cloud-based and client-side predictive analytics, which you're going to see today. We have client-side statistical functions, which you'll see today. And then we have client-side programming / scripting with Python and R. And if you were in the presentation a couple of weeks ago, we're actually looking at ways to even move some of that to the server so you can run longer scripts with larger data sets. But the cool thing is after you see some of the demos today, especially around Google BigQuery or Azure analytics, machine learning, your eyes could potentially open up to really what's possible with the cloud. So it's actually pretty cool what you're able to do. So what can you do? So using the cloud, you can actually process millions of rows of data. And the demo today is really interesting because the model that I trained for Google, the Google BigQuery ML, is 20 gigabytes. And then every time we're running a query, it's doing a gigabyte of processing. There's millions of rows of data. My trained model outputs 200 and some thousand rows of data. And what we're doing is all of that's happening server side, and we're just sending back down to reveal what it needs to be successful for your dashboard, for you to do the analytics. And that happens in seconds, and you'll see that in the demos today. With a single click, you can apply statistical analysis to your data sets. That's really cool because this is really so simple. Like, hey, here's the sales forecast. What does it look like for the next 6 months? Click, and then you can see it right in the visualization. And then using these advanced programming languages like Python and R to process data and return meaningful results to users. I will show again a demo I showed 2 weeks ago, just to give you an idea of the type of coding that you can do on the client side in Reveal to output a result. And we've simplified these, and we continue to simplify these advanced capabilities so you can use them sometimes with one click, sometimes a little bit more. But the idea is you don't need a data science degree to do data science in Reveal. And that's really our goal. Simple and beautiful is the mantra for this product. Everything we do is simple and beautiful. We want it to be approachable for you to use and implement right away, but in an easy way, and then just beautiful. So when your users are using the product, they say, wow, this is a great experience, and they recommend it to their coworkers. So let's take a look at machine learning. I just have a couple slides here because the demo really does it justice. But the idea is we have Azure machine learning, and then we have Google BigQuery ML machine learning. And what this means from a machine learning perspective is that you have millions or tens of millions. And in fact, Casey and I were on a customer call this morning, and the number was 600 million rows of data on the server. How quickly can we get that back down into a dashboard for our users? Well, with Reveal, it's seconds. And so what happens is you have all this data in the cloud, and you just don't want to do queries on it because queries will just give you like the dashboard. What you want to do is use the power of the cloud to give you insights. And that's what machine learning is all about. You train the machine based on your data to give you insight that then you can use in those dashboards. So the demo today I'm going to show you is about credit risk. So we have this credit risk file. And actually in this case, we have a model in Azure. We're going to take the data from a CSV file. We're going to throw it up to the cloud. The cloud's going to process the data against a model that we've trained, and it's going to send it back down and give us two output fields, credit risk and score probability, which then we can use to make good dashboards with. And then with Google BigQuery, it works a little bit different. So on the Azure story, you've got this model in the cloud, or you can have data. So I mean, you're not limited to just having the model in the cloud without your data. If you're using Azure Synapse, there's probably half a dozen different data stores in Azure. You could be running models hourly, nightly, whatever, and getting a data set that you can consume in Reveal. And that's what's happening here with Google BigQueries. We have the data in the server, a few million rows of data, and we're doing processing. We've created a model on the server. We do processing, and then we get that output down to Reveal when we ask for it to refresh the dashboard. So in this case, we're looking at a bunch of information on baby birth. So what we want to know is, based on all these fields, what is my predicted weight? What does the machine say based on all these millions of rows of data, what the predicted weight will be? And it's pretty cool. It just kind of happens, it's the machine figures it out. So we're going to take a look at some demos there. And then for statistical analytics, we have several options here. So we have a forecasting option, and this is where we get into the one click. So we use this exponential smoothing algorithm on time series based data, which you can use, as you can see in my slide, with various different category charts, so step charts, column charts, line charts, things like that. And the idea with this data is the forecasting is happening with your data client side. So it's looking at the data set that you have said, I want to use this data set to represent this visualization. Show me the prediction for the future. And we just do that with a visual cue and the tooltip and in the legend of the visualization. So you can see everything that has sort of like a range chart starting in around January 2020 of this visualization. Everything to the right in this range area is the forecast, and that forecast is shown by that the range, so the colored sort of semi-transparent area over the line series. And then what we did here is we took a screenshot of the tooltip, which is showing you the forecast sum of sales, forecast sum of sales A and B. So these are for a couple different product lines, and we're predicting that in May 2019, the sales would be 7.5 million based on all of the information that we passed ahead of this and more. So it's really, really cool. The more data you have, obviously, the more accurate the forecast. The big bullet here on the bottom is this is data quality matters in cases like this, because if your data is bad, and in fact at Infragistics, we have some unique scenarios with our customers. So we have a developer tools business, which is a subscription with renewals, and then we have customers that pay us for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, whatever. So you'll get that order in, and it might spike in 1 month. 1 month it'll say, hey, you made $74 million, and then the next month you only made 32, and then 32 was the rest of the year, and then you all of a sudden are going to renew at a certain rate, but you want to smooth this out. And so that's where some other techniques come in when you're looking at data, and that is outlier detection. So if you have these jumps like we do with some of these big customers that pay us at different intervals of years and not just monthly, you get these spikes in your forecast. And what's good to know is the information about those spikes. So one of the things we do is just outlier detection. So we have, we're using an interquartile range rule algorithm, which is looking at the data, and it's looking at deviations with sort of this, if everything was equal across this data set, what are the deviations in this data set? Then let's highlight that with these yellow dots. So this is really useful because if you're running a sales team, you're looking at machine performance. Like I used to work for a company, and we made rivets. And so there was all these machines in the shop, and every day those machines ran like 23 hours a day. And the output of those machines was critical. So what you want to see is if there's any outliers in by the minute of a machine that's creating these rivets. And charts like this could give us that information and show those outliers, because it would indicate or predict that we need maintenance on the machine, or there was maybe another issue with the machine. So this is really important aspect of sales, of IoT, of you name it, even healthcare. If I'm looking at maybe my blood pressure, sometimes when my demos don't work, I could use a chart like this because there'd probably be some anomaly in my blood pressure because I can't figure out what's going on. But every vertical can use a visualization like this to do predictions. And then finally, from statistics, we look at linear regression. So linear regression is again used with these category charts like bar, column, line, spline, and we're providing a best fit line to match the prediction of the data. So we're looking at the relationship between one or more predictor variables and one outcome variable to determine the delta between the X and Y dots along the path of your regression, and then we do the slope based on that. And you'll see in the demo that you don't have to worry about any of that complex stuff. You just click the button and say, show me a linear regression. This is an interesting regression because it's urbanization versus GDP, where you've got a use case of a scatter plot. So the scatter plot can have a range distribution, and in this case, GDP is on the x-axis, and the share of population living in urban areas percentage is on the y-axis. So if we were to do this in a bar chart or a line chart, it would kind of look really weird. There would be these lines everywhere. So we have a scatter plot, but what we really want to know is, where is this going? Where was it, and where is it going? And that's where the linear regression really comes in handy. And I think Casey's going to recreate this specific demo during her presentation. So we'll look forward to that. And then finally, Python and our scripting. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I love this. And in fact, it was funny in Reveal, we don't have a histogram chart yet. It's on the backlog. And you're like, really? You don't have a histogram? Isn't that kind of common? I get it. We're going to add it soon. But the point is, I said, man, I wish we had a histogram. And then I was like, oh, with one line of code in R, I can get a histogram. And that's what I did. So I just said, create me an R visualization, hist, and then I passed it my data source, and bam, I have a histogram and Reveal. And now all of my users have that. So there's no limit. And that's the point. Like, we want to ensure that you're not stuck in our default features. Using the cloud, using the statistical functions, using R and Python, you can do pretty much whatever you want with Reveal. So with that, let's get into some demos. And today we're going to spend a little bit more time on demos. So let me start with Reveal. And today what I'm going to be using is Reveal Desktop. I'm not going to be using the web. I think Casey might be using the web. Are you going to use the web in your demos, or the desktop? Yep, okay, she's going to use the web. Now, the reason I'm going to use the desktop is because if you remember a couple weeks ago, I think I showed you the map control, or the map visualization that we're shipping. That is in a preview mode in the desktop app, and we're going to release it in 8 days. I think July 30th is the release date. Is that correct? Yep, so Casey says yes. So July 30th, everyone will have this for web and for iOS, Android, and desktop. But I think the map is so cool, I've been using the preview in the desktop. So everything I'm doing here is desktop, so you're not limited. The only thing you won't be able to see if you follow along or try to do these on the web is the map. So let's take a look at machine learning. And the first one I will look at is Azure. And I'm going to click this dashboard and just kind of show you what it looks like. So this is a column chart where I've got a credit risk of bad and good. So blue is bad, green is good, and this is the prediction of the number of houses that will pay back the will or will not pay back the credit. So do they have good credit or bad credit? And what we've done with this is we've used a model on the server to predict, based on some inputs, what the 1 and the 0 would be, what the good and the bad would actually be. So if I go and I click edit, and I edit this particular widget, what you'll see here is this looks like a normal visualization. But if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll notice a couple things. I've got a calculated field here called good, bad. And then I've got from Azure model. I've got credit risk and score probabilities. So what we did here is we passed inputs to the cloud. It used the model to determine what the credit risk and score probability would have been, and then it gives it back to me in my field list. So then I can treat it just like any other field list, which makes it super, super simple. So in this case, I'm just doing a credit risk and showing, you know, what, if it's good or bad, what the person's credit history is and what the count is. So let's go ahead and build this from scratch just so you get an idea. So I'm just going to use this dashboard and I'm going to add a new visualization. And what we're doing is using this credit risk input.csv. So all of my data ends up being client side. So I'm going to go ahead and use this account. And you can see here, I've got my CSV preview. So I'm just going to select this data, and I've got all of the information here that I need to create my dashboard. So I could just go ahead and just start creating a dashboard, like age in years and credit amount. And maybe I don't want a sum here. Maybe in this case, I want to do an average. So the average age ends up being here in my title. And then this is the amount of credit that we would extend these folks based on their age with this input data. But what I want to do is actually use the brain icon. And with the brain icon, it says Microsoft Azure. Now, this is the first dialog you get, and Azure works a little bit different than Google, and you'll see how the Google works in a second. But Azure works with two inputs. So you use this Swagger key, which I am going to copy in and give you an idea of what it looks like. So this is essentially the link to my trained model. So when you train your model in Azure, it says, hey, here's a link to your model, and this is what you would use if you want to access it through a REST API, which is what we're doing. And then you have an API key, which means that I am actually authorized to use this model. So you have this sort of code in here. And don't copy this, because then we're using the free Azure credits. It'll probably blow up our Azure credits. But anyway, those are the only two inputs I need. I just need to know where I'm looking and am I authorized to actually access it. And then I click connect. And so this is what happens. And this is the beauty of what we did in Reveal, is that the model, based on that Swagger document, which describes the API, says to Reveal, hey, I could use the following fields to make the best guess prediction for this model. And so we automatically populate that in the dialog, and we automatically check the box based on the fields that map. So what I want is my output from this model to be credit risk and score probabilities, and I want to take all this input data, send it up to the cloud to figure that out. All I got to do is click load data. Just like that, we are ready to rock and roll. So you'll see here on the bottom, now I have my from Azure model, credit risk and score probabilities. If I go and click the kebab menu, I can click edit parameters again, and I can come back to this field if I want to modify this, or I can click edit connection and maybe look for another option. But the idea here is now I'll grab credit risk to the values here and age in years. And so I've got, this is doing a sum. So what I'll do is maybe just an average again. So we're constantly just sort of updating this. But for the age in years, my credit risk is either a 1 or a 2. So it's either a good or a bad. So the younger people, it's a higher risk that they're going to have, they're going to be a credit risk. And as you get older, certain years based on our model, you are less of a credit risk. So this gets to be really interesting. We wouldn't have known this without the information that we pulled back from the actual model. And then the other field we have here is score probabilities. And score probabilities, again, I don't need a sum. I can just use an average score probability again, and it's a 1 or 0 for a good or a bad. So that's as simple as it is. And then from this point, I can choose any visualization that I want. Could be a line chart, column chart. And in the previous visualization, I did a bar chart with a calculated field. So that's the Azure story, super simple. We're using trained models on the server. We're taking your data from the client in this, this scenario, mapping it up to the server to get those score probabilities back. We don't need to do anything fancy like train the model ourselves. We don't need to wait for seconds for this thing to spin and then go to the server and do stuff. It all happens really fast because we're using the cloud. So now I am going to show you Google BigQuery. So I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of show this dashboard, which is using some various predictions from Google BigQuery, but I want to create this from scratch as well. So I'll go ahead and do a new dashboard. This is a little bit different. So with Azure, I actually picked a data source, and then that data source ended up in my fields list, like an Excel file, SQL Server, Synapse, whatever. And then I did the modeling or the work to do the mapping in the field list. It's the same in Google BigQuery, except the way we start is a little bit different. So here I would click plus data source, and then we've got the Google BigQuery option in the data source, and I am going to be prompted for my login. So I'm going to log in to my Google account. So then I'm up in the Google Cloud and I'm authenticated. And I've got a few options here. Every time you authenticate in Google Cloud, you have access to their public data. But I created a project that's my own project, and I've got a BigQuery ML tutorial. And the nice thing is this tutorial is public. So if you look at the BigQuery ML tutorial, you can do exactly what I'm doing here, and we can paste the link to that during the talk. But I want this natality underscore input table, and I'm going to select that data. And now I'm back to where you're familiar. I'm here inside of my editor, and what I want to show you is, let me drag this over from my other screen, is that up in BigQuery, this is what the UI looks like for BigQuery. We actually have this model, and I've got my input and I've got my model. So this is my model and this is my input. And you'll notice that the field list here is the same field list that I have inside of Reveal. And then there's a few things you can do here, look at the details, when it was created and whatnot. Now, if I look at my model and I go over to the schema, and let me move this up a bit, what you'll notice here is that the output that I'm looking for is the predicted weight in pounds, and the inputs are male, gestation weeks, mother age, and mother race. So these inputs will be used from my data source to determine what this output is. Now, I trained this model yesterday. I don't need to train it again because the data hasn't changed. But the beauty of this is that you're using the cloud to do the training, and you could schedule it. So if you have a lot of IoT data coming in or real-time data coming in into your BigQuery, this model could be running as much as you want, and those outputs could actually change. And so my birth rate or my birth in pounds may change based on more data being added in. But what we're doing in this case is there's a few million rows of data. We're removing everything that has inaccurate or null data, and we end up with a little over 200,000 rows of data, and that's what's being run. So you'll see here when I actually run my query, I've got it down from like 20 gigabytes to 1 gigabyte when it runs the actual query. So that's what sort of the Google BigQuery side looks like. It's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. So how do I get there? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the brain icon again. And what's different here is, since we've authenticated on Google BigQuery, they have a different process for offering me the models that are available. So this model, natality model, is available for me. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and click connect. So now I'm in with the model. And if you recall on the previous screen, I showed you the inputs and the outputs, and this is my predicted weight output. I'm going to go ahead, click load data, and then of course down here I've got my predicted weight in my field list just like before. So now if I grab something like mother birth state, and I'll make that the row, and I'm going to go down here and put the predicted birth weight, and the auto is a sum in Reveal, so I'm going to change this to an average, and I'll update the field. And so here you can see the predicted birth weight based on the state, which is actually pretty cool. So keep in mind, we went from millions of rows to 200 and some thousand rows, and you saw how fast that happened. This was literally, there was no weight. It's almost like it was a local Excel file. And then something like this, again, I would just go and I would create charts from that. Now this chart, just to show you what the map would look like, if I go down here and I say show this across my US states, what you have is in the map, the predicted weight, it goes from 7 to 8 pounds. So 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, etc. And it will just show the color blending across the map. So the darker states have the heavier babies, Maine, Minneapolis, and is it New Mexico? Those are heavier babies. And then the lighter babies are Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, which is really interesting. Like there's, what's the correlate? Why? What's the correlation? Well, you have all this data here. You could start looking at other things. But to just clean this up a bit, some of the other features in Reveal. So I'm just going to say predicted weight. So I'm going to change how that label looks so it looks a little bit nicer. I'll update the field, and you'll see now this says predicted weight. Natality input, I'm going to say birth weight by state, by mother state, like so. And I'll click my checkbox here, and I've got a visualization there. So now I can just keep having fun. I've got my natality input there already. Another trick I could do is I could duplicate this widget. So now I have 2 widgets. Now let me edit this guy. And I mentioned earlier using R. Now yesterday I had a little bug here because again it's a beta of the map, but let me go down to the R scripting, and what happens with the R scripting is basically the same thing. I can add whatever fields I want, and then I go and I edit my script. And in this case, I just say hist, and I'm going to say data set average of predicted weight, and I'll paste this guy in, check the box, and now we've got a histogram of the predicted weight in pounds. And then like we learned last week in R, you can change things like the title, whoops, predicted weight distribution, something like that, and click the checkbox, and we've changed our title, click the checkbox, and we're just kind of off to the races. So just like that, I guess less than a minute, I've queried millions of rows of data in the cloud, got from a 20 gigabyte data set to a 1 gigabyte data set based on my request of the cloud, and I've created a map, and I've created a histogram to demonstrate the data based on what the prediction is. So here we have our frequency distribution, and here we have our map. And with that, I have one more demo, then I'm going to pass it off to Casey. So let me, I'll just close this card, and we will go back to here where I had Python and R. And what I wanted to do in R was show this word cloud again, because I showed this a couple weeks ago. But what I wanted to point out was, we don't have a word cloud in Reveal, but we have a word cloud in R, Python, doesn't matter. There's word clouds all over the place. Here's the data that I am looking at, and this is our Twitter feed. Looks like we've got some tweets on jQuery, React, some other stuff happening here. But let me go ahead and edit this, and I'll edit this widget, and I'm going to go to settings and look at my R script. And the reason I just want to show this word cloud is because we are doing a bunch of stuff to prep our data to then display in the word cloud. So this is R, just like I just did the histogram in R, which was like one line, just saying hist, passing it some data, and magically I have a histogram. In this case, I am doing a bunch more data processing. And my point here is that if you can dream the output you want, you can do whatever you want in script, in code, with Reveal. So there are no limits. And then these are different because what we're using here is we're using a color brewer plugin to give us some nice colors. And then I am changing the the max words property on the R script to just show less words so I can focus on what's important. So with that, I am going to stop my screen share. I'm going to make Casey the presenter, and Casey, you can take over and you know, show some demos.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yep, you sound good.
Okay. And then are you seeing my screen with the reveal on it?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So as Jason mentioned, I'm going to walk you through how to create some of the and use some of the statistical functions within Reveal. So I am going to be using the web version, as Jason mentioned. So within Reveal, you can see that it looks the same on your web, desktop, and it would look the same also on your mobile. So we also support iOS and Android. So here I have like my home section with all my personal dashboards or ones that I'm sharing between a few different people. I have my teams and organizational level stuff up here. But quickly getting into it, if I come up here to add a dashboard, I can select any of my data sources from here that I wish to. But I'm going to use one of our built-in sample data options here, and anybody that is using Reveal has the sample data that they can use to mess around with. So if I select that here, I am going to use this sales tab within here and select data. And let's first look at the outlier detection. So if I pull over a date here with leads, and I change this to month, and let's change this to a line chart here. You know, I wanted to use a different data source, sorry. In my OneDrive here, I have an Excel file that actually I know has some outliers in it that we created. So I'm going to come to this sample demo here and select the sales here and basically just recreate what I just did. So if I come here with the date and my leads here, and I change this to a line chart with month, like this, you can see the arrow or the magic ball up here in the top right. But I'm first going to change this to leads, and I'm also going to add a date filter here. So I'm just going to look at the last 365 days and hit apply. And I'm going to come here, and you can see the three options up here for your time series forecast, your linear regression, and your outlier detection. So if I click this here, you can see the two outliers automatically come up that Jason was showing in the screenshots in the PowerPoint. If I was to also flip and look at the data, you can see how they appear within a table format as well. So just quickly with 2 clicks, we have these here. So I'm just going to click check. I'm going to remove this one for now. And this will now be for anybody, since I'm creating this chart, anybody that comes in as a viewer will be able to see any outliers within the data. So if I come up now to add another one, I'm gonna just again use the same data source with the same sheet, and we'll do a forecast. So if I have my date and I want to look at my new sales versus my renewal sales, and then again I'll change this to a line chart by month here. And I'm actually going to add a filter up at this level so I can change both of these at the same time if I wish to. So if I create that filter like that, and I will change this to last 365. And I come back into edit mode here. I'm going to now perform a forecast, so I get to choose my season length and my periods that I wish to forecast. You can see from the drop down here the numbers which you can choose from. I'm going to leave it as is and just hit forecast like this. So you can see that we populate the forecast range for you. And we'll just do new sales versus renewal sales plus forecast. And now when I'm looking at this dashboard, I can rearrange these things if I want to. And I will add another one. I'm just going to save this for now. And we'll call it advanced analytics. And what I'm going to do is save it here just in my personal section and actually turn on crosshairs. So from the interactions button up here, I can turn on crosshairs like this. And as I hover over my different data points, and I believe Jason had this in his screenshot, I get some deeper insights into the exact points, into the exact forecasts and things like that. Now I'm going to recreate the image that Jason showed in his deck. I'm actually I'm going to pull it from, I have this here with the data that we want to use for that particular visualization. So I'm just going to copy this visualization here, come back to the dashboard that we were just working on, go into edit mode and paste this. So you can see I just pasted it here at the bottom. That data source gets added to this dashboard. And I'm just going to go into edit mode here and change this to a scatter chart. So I need to pull over a y-axis. And you can see my scatter chart here. So we're looking at our GDP per capita in relation to the share of population living in urban areas. And then if I come here, you can see that obviously time series forecast doesn't relate to the data. So we do make sure we're offering you only the ones that will output. So if I click a linear regression here, you can see this now created that exact same linear regression that Jason was showing in the deck. Hit a little check like this. And again, I can just rearrange these if I want to. I can export this out into any of the formats as an image, PowerPoint, Excel, or the dashboard file. I can, now if I want to share this with anybody, I'm going to grant them access to the file since I use my OneDrive here. And I can share this with Jason. I can give him different permissions, whether I want him to own it, be able to modify it, or just view it. And I'll send him out an invitation like that. And yeah, that's how you use statistical functions within Reveal.
Seems too simple. Yeah, I love it because when you say it's too simple, people don't believe you. But when you actually see it, you're like, yeah, that's actually really easy to do. Anyone can do that in their dashboards. And I mean, I say that the obviously the doing some data science stuff in the cloud and creating models is a little bit more complex, but Reveal has simplified it to the point where it's just like using Transact SQL in the cloud with Google, and you're just calling those queries. Everything happens server side, and you're just getting those results back. So that's really, really slick. So let me go ahead and actually, you can just go to the next slides since you seem to be sharing there. Oh, go to, I guess we're all the way near the end here.
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, this is it. So with Reveal, you get simple and beautiful visualizations. What we hope you saw today is that advanced analytics with Reveal enables the delivery of richer experiences to your users. And that's what we're trying to get to you. Machine learning opens endless opportunities of the elastic cloud to perform AI tasks, and then using these statistical functions that you just saw in the demo makes it really simple to do client-side predictions of your data, and your end users can do that, super easy. And then of course, R and Python to supercharge whatever you want to display with custom code and custom visualizations. And that's it. Click to the next slide and we'll just wrap it up here. The call to action is simple. Use Reveal to deliver advanced analytics in your dashboards. Your users will be happy. You'll be able to make decisions faster, and you'll be able to make decisions with better information when you're using some of these advanced analytics capabilities. So we always talk about the data story. The story continues to evolve with your visualizations when you inject things like predictive analytics, outliers, forecasting, machine learning, etc. So with that, we'll stay on for a little bit longer and answer some questions in the chat. If you have any questions, obviously email sales, try revealbi.io to do all of this online. And then the next slide has our emails, and you can just contact us directly if you would like to talk to us more about what you can do with Reveal for your organization today. So thanks everyone for attending, and thank you, Casey, for the great demo.